Welcome back, everyone, once again to a new installment of Screenplay Rewind. I'm Jeff.
And I'm back.
Yeah, Ron's been. Where'd you go? Himalayas? Where was it you went to?
I've been globetrotting. This is my second vacation in like a month of each other. I went to Curacao. It's a little island. It's as far south in the Caribbean as you can get. It is 40 miles north of Venezuela, and it is a Dutch colony.
Why does this sound like the plot of an Uncharted game?
Basically, the entire island's population is 150,000. And you want to know the best part, Jeff?
You met Pedro Pascal, who is a rich cartel overlord.
I so wish.
And he likes Paddington.
The absolute best part of the whole thing is that island is, in the equator. It is summer there, year round, every day. Their temperature range throughout the year is like 84 to 87 degrees every day.
Fuck?
Every single day.
What the fuck?
Every day. They have a dry season and a wet season, and that's their seasons.
God damn it. It's like when you hear about like California near the coast and it's just like, man, it was a real barn burner. It hit 78 today. It's like, go fuck yourself, man.
Hey, Jeff, you want to know where I was when you guys had like 10 days straight of like 105 degrees?
Where's that?
Curacao.
And you didn't bring me? You just let me wither away on the surface of the fucking redneck sun
To be
Oklahoma.
The redneck sun. That is, what is Billy Bob Thornton has a band that sings this genre. There's a genre of music that is a spoof of country music. I want to be the redneck sons. Oh my God. It has a name. I can't think of it. It's basically, it sounds like country music, but the lyrics make fun of country music.
Good.
A resounding good from Jeff.
I fucking hate country music. At least, modern country music.
Stadium country music.
The only good modern country song is Bo Burnham's country song.
I was gonna say
modern country song.
Oh God,
a dirt road.
It's just describing everything he sees. I love it.
A rural noun, simple adjective.
Yeah, it's just the best. That's exactly what I was about to say. That's the best song lyric I've ever heard.
It's fucking ingenious.
Rural noun, simple adjective. And his that like hick sound, like accent that he uses is perfect. It's not unrealistic in any way. He sounds just like every country singer. Oh God. No, so I want your opinion on something that happened though. I had a lot of adventures, but this is probably the biggest misadventure. So normally in these situations, my wife does not back me up. And while she did not technically this time, because she just kind of looked away and let it happen, the important thing is she let it happen. Just like every night. The more I said that out loud, the more I was like, oh God, oh God.
And the more I was like, I'm not touching that one.
I've been in the sun a lot, Jeff.
Fucker, I've been on the surface of the redneck sun. I don't want to hear it, Mr. fucking 80-degree bullshit. It's been like fucking 92 at 4 a.m. here, dude.
Oh, dude, I had steak bao every day for lunch and would swim in the ocean. And there's a really great infinity pool. I'm so tan, Jeff. So tan.
I think I had a hot pocket once, and I went to work. That was pretty dope.
I had one of the best fillets I've ever had in my life. Anyways. So there's a second island called Klein Curacao. Their flag has 2 stars on it, a big star and a little star. The little star is Klein Curacao. It is uninhabited. You can stand on one beach and see the waves splashing on the other beach.
Well, you see, if it says it's uninhabited, that just means that's what the Nazi scientists that have been living there for 80 years want you to think.
Funny you should say that for multiple reasons. So There is an abandoned lighthouse on the thing. It's got 2 buildings next to it. Looks a lot like Cock and Balls from a distance.
Okay.
Just in the
sounds like my kind of vacation.
Just in the middle of the island. It really looks like a place that would have a secret Nazi lab under it. But like I said, multiple reasons. The crew of the boat that took us there, it's like maybe 6 people. And these 6 people not only crewed it was a yacht, but when I say it's a yacht, I mean it was a yacht that was crammed with as many people as would fit on it, because they have to make money. It's not like it was a party yacht. Like, you sat down and you did not move because the waves were bad enough there that, like, I found out I get motion sickness. I didn't know that. I've been around boats I was going to say most of my life, but not at this point, but a lot of my life. And this is the first time I had to get a sickness bag and throw up in it. It was crazy. But these 6 people shepherded us onto the boat, crewed the boat for about an hour to Klein Curacao. You had to get off of the boat into a dinghy and be ferried, and it was as many people as they could cram into the dinghy. It was like the opening of a James Bond movie. It was like those ones that look inflatable on the side with the one outboard motor on the back. That took you to the island. And then once you're there, everyone's on the island and everyone's swimming in the ocean or doing whatever. They are bartending. They are barbecuing the food. There's no plumbing. There's no running water at all. To flush the toilet, there's a big drum of water that you fill a bucket from and go pour it into the toilet to flush. But you go there and they're doing everything there. These 6 people have a couple of hundred or maybe about 100 people on this island that they're taking care of. And there's this big gazebo-like thing that is where you eat. They did breakfast and lunch and then took us back. And here's where the misadventure happened. It had so. Let me paint the scenario for you. It is a bunch of people, a handful of people cooking the food, and then they lay it out, and they serve it to you. You couldn't touch it. They wore gloves. They wore face coverings like over their nose and mouth, and you just formed a line like a bread line. Walked up, told them what you wanted, and they grabbed a plate, and they just went down with tongs, grabbing everything and putting it on a plate for you, and. It was full of picnic tables, and like I said, there's probably maybe about 100 people on this island at most, all getting in a line and going and sitting down and eating, and there's just a handful of tables, but they're really big picnic tables, right? Think like school cafeteria style, right? So Chris and I found a place to sit on the very end of one of the tables. I'm on one side of it, she's on the other. And there was people's drinks on the other half, but not on the half we were on. There was like 5 or 6 drinks there. And then this guy with a very heavy German accent comes up.
Oh, no.
And he was like, excuse me, but we were sitting here. You see the drinks. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. And I just kept eating because I've been sick all day, throwing up, getting there. I'm just now recovering. I skipped breakfast because I didn't know if I could keep it down. I tried swimming in the ocean, but the movement of the waves had re-triggered the motion sickness. So I was kind of tired and not feeling good and needed food. I was not in the mood to be fucked with. And he was like, no, I don't think you understand. We were sitting here, so you need to find somewhere else to sit. And I was like, there is nowhere else, man. But I mean, you're welcome to join us. And I just kept eating.
And so, like, just to clarify, there were open seats where he could sit next to you?
Absolutely, because they claimed that half of the table, and we sat on the other side on the very end of it. So even more people could join us than that. And the thing that Chris kept pointing out later is that there are like 5 or 6 cups. We're not spread across the table. It's not like we moved their drinks. They, at best, filled half of that table with their drinks, claiming their spot while they went to get food, and we sat on the other end. And he was like, no, we're going to sit here as a family. You need to find somewhere else to sit. And I'm like, man, you and your family are welcome to join us if you want, but I'm hungry. I am eating. And I just kept eating. And he just stood there and stared at me for a while.
That's,
and then
dude, just sit down in the open seats that you did dibs. Like, what? I don't understand, like, why he's even freaking out.
And then he like just waits for his family to come. He says stuff to them in German, and they all grab their drinks and walk away. And the last thing he says as he walks away, I couldn't make it out. Chris and I heard two different things, but I did everything I could not to laugh because it is such a trope in American movies, what he did, that I couldn't take it seriously, and I almost burst out laughing in his face. But as he picked up his drink and started to walk away with his food, he looks at me like a sidelong glance and just goes, I hope you puke. In like this heavy German accent. And I heard, I hope you choke.
This is a scene of an Uncharted game. This isn't real life. Like this is insane.
I heard choke. Chris heard puke. But the way he said it and with that accent and just the fact that he did that at all, any American movie with a German villain, they say shit like that. They do stuff like that. So
That's
I couldn't help myself. But they went out to the beach where I'm pretty sure they didn't want you because of trash concerns, right? But they
instead of just sitting next to you guys?
Instead of just sitting next to us. Then by the time we were done eating, we're getting up to leave, two more people came and sat down next to us. And that was that. They didn't care we were there. We didn't care they were there.
That's so weird.
But, like, is it me? Am I the asshole?
No, not at all. First of all, they hadn't dibsed your seats at all. If you went to the, like, hypothetically speaking, you go to the table, there are only two spots and there are drinks down on those two seats and you move them to take the seats, that's a dick move. But you guys didn't do anything wrong. The guy's just being a prick. You don't get to dibs the whole thing. You didn't even have, like, items, like, holding.
Like, I realize the problem here for anyone else listening is you're only hearing my version of the story, but I'm trying to tell it exactly the way it was laid out. It's a cafeteria style setting. You got in line, they give you your food, and you went, and just like high school, sat down anywhere you could. And there was nothing on that half of the table, the entire half of the table. And we sat as far to the end as we could. I had to straddle one of the legs to the table on one side because we were on the very, very end to avoid just that kind of situation. We just wanted to eat some food, man. And it was some fucking awesome barbecue, by the way.
Nice.
I was hoping there were beef ribs. There were pork ribs. I don't like those as much. They're kind of chewy. But it was pork ribs. There was grilled chicken breast. There was grilled like chicken thighs and wings. They had burgers, corn on the cob, salad, slaw, fries. Like they had baked beans. They had this just amazing spread. And he just walked up and said, "Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please." And these 6 people with gloves and face coverings did it. And then when they were done, these poor bastards had to clean up everything. And they got like, I noticed them at one point near the end of the thing that for like 30 minutes, it took me a minute to realize since they were in swimsuits, I didn't recognize them immediately, that this small group off to the edge swimming in the water was them. And then after about 30 minutes, you see them like get up and leave, and then they come back and they're, it was the Miss Anne was the name of the boat, and they all had shirts and stuff that said Miss Anne all over it. They came back in that again and started ferrying equipment and supplies to the boat and then bringing it back, and then came and got the people and then drove us back. And at the end of it, they had a tip jar. And I get people not wanting necessarily the tip because I don't know what we paid, but it's probably anywhere from $150 to $300 a person for this thing. I don't remember what it was. But like I'm looking around at their operation and I'm like, their profit margin can't be that high. They're operating the boat. There's only a handful of them. They're doing all this work. Everything that I saw was like they went to Sam's Club and bought it. Like it's not like they have a deal with a merchant somewhere, right? It's not like they're probably paying the same price I am for shit. And they did all this fucking hard work, and they were super nice people. Like, I talked to a few of them, and they were super nice people, and they're just trying to make a living on this little island, man. And when
they got the fucking Nazi scientists showing up, telling people they want them to choke, and it's just messing up the whole vibe, man.
When they pulled out the tip jar, like, I gave them a full $20 tip. And some people may think that that's high, some people may think it's low. But, I mean, I had already paid to be there, plus I gave them a $20 tip. But some people were dropping, like, pocket change. Like, here's a couple of quarters or, like, a nickel and a dime. Just, like, dropping pocket change in it. And I dropped a 20 in it because I was just like, fuck all of you, man. These people are working their asses off. I doubt that they are rich. You know, like, the captain of this thing is paying a crew. He's paying for the boat. He's paying for the gas. He's sending people out to the supermarket to buy supplies. Like, I don't think their profit margin is as high as you probably think it is. That is why they jam-packed us all like sardines into this boat to get as many people out as they could.
I almost sometimes think in those situations, tipping pocket change is more rude than having not tipped at all.
Yeah, it's almost an insult.
Because, like, if you're
I would rather you not think of me than to drop a quarter in.
Yeah, that's how I think about it. Because it's like, if your moral philosophy is like, I paid the set amount to do this, I don't need to tip. You know, kind of a dick move, but whatever. But if you, like, feel the need to tip, but only tip, like, 75 cents, that's even more of a dick move, and you're almost better off just having not tipped to me.
And to be clear, when I say they jam-packed us like sardines, like, it was every seat taken. Like, it would say, like, the maximum occupancy is, like, X number of people, and I never felt like they exceeded that. Like, there was no standing room. Everyone, you had to sit down and you had to stay seated. They made you take off your shoes before you got on the boat because once the deck is wet, it's slippery and dangerous. And, like, if you needed something, you wave at them, they come to you, and then they go get it, and they go do it.
How did you guys find out about this? Because it seems like a very obscure vacation spot, like the specific little, like, barbecue beach thing.
You just go through the list of excursions.
Okay.
It's when you go to a resort, it's like a cruise on land. Like, all the same amenities are there. Everything's inclusive. You have the swimming pool, you have the beach and stuff. And then you also have, like, you just go onto the website and click on excursions, and just the list of things that are approved by the resort, like work with the resort. You can do your own thing, but you're responsible for paying for it, setting it up, vouching for it. Like, this is partners of the resort. Like, you know that it's safe. They're working with the resort. The resort is putting you on a bus and taking you there if it's one of those type things.
Okay.
So, like, you can do your own thing, but most of the time it's just easier, and in a foreign country, a lot of times safer to book things to the resort, and cruises work the same way.
Because, like, when you were talking at first about, like, going to the uninhabited island for the barbecue and beach thing, I was like, I got my plot for the next horror short story, right? Because that sounds like a terrible idea.
We were not the only boat there. In fact, I have a picture I've been wanting to send you that I kept forgetting. One of my favorite pictures I took. I did not even realize when I walked past it and saw the name of the boat that it was going to be traveling with us. But it left before us, and our boat was fast enough. We overtook it and got there like a full 10 minutes before they did. This boat's name, I can only hope this captain owns 3 boats, by the way. This boat's name is Second Chance.
Nice.
I can only hope that the first one is just like first try, second chance, third time's a charm. Like, I can only hope that they have 3 boats, because otherwise there's a story behind Second Chance. But yeah, no. Okay, so I'm not the asshole, because that's the thing that's just like,
no.
I was in a pretty dickish mood. I was peckish and dickish, and I just wanted to eat some food, man. I just wanted to eat some bomb-ass barbecue and go swim in the ocean like an idiot, get a cramp and drown, you know? But yeah,
it's also like they're bad for realizing like this. They could tell based on what you're describing on how like packed it was. You're gonna be sitting next to people, and you need to get over it.
I don't understand.
It's like they were trying to sit like almost like reserving like the way you do like a table at a restaurant.
Right.
You know, it's not the same situation.
This is not a restaurant.
You don't get to reserve an entire section just because you have like 3 or 4 drinks down. Yeah, it's absurd.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, but I thought you would enjoy the "I hope you puke" as he walks away. Oh, it was so good. I just knew, since our umbrella that we had our stuff under was like, I don't know, 2 umbrellas down from him, that I was gonna be seeing and hearing from him again, but never did. Never did. He left it at that, and I left it at that. I just kept. I literally barely looked at him and just kept eating. Like, I wasn't exactly helping the situation, but at the same time,
you guys didn't do anything wrong.
At the same time, I feel like I am pretty in the right here. I admit that I was also a dick because I was feeling sick. I was hungry. I was in the sun. I was probably dehydrated from throwing up, but hadn't really drank any water. And
you're still mad about the whole World War II thing. You know, you haven't fully gotten over that. You know, you get a little bit of an axe to grind.
I didn't tell Chris this, but part of the reason I just kept eating is I want to be like, look, I know you're used to taking things that aren't yours, but I just had to ram some barbecue in my mouth to keep myself from saying that. Because that's not a fair comment. It's a good one, but it's not a fair comment.
It's like, hey, buddy, we came here to order racks of ribs, not deal with the Third Reich. Like, come on, man.
Reichs of ribs?
Yeah. Oh. See, if the name of the joint was the Reichs of, like, the Third Reichs of ribs, then the guy has a point, you know. It's kind of, you're playing on his home turf.
Oh, my God. Oh God, I was just trying to think of like what would the armband be? Just like 2 like barbecued ribs, like an abstract like cartoon barbecued ribs on the armband.
It's just like swastika, like rotating rotisserie chickens.
Oh yeah, it was that was the only mar on the trip though, and I forgot about I forgot about it pretty quick because I'm on vacation, man. Go fuck yourself.
No, yeah, you don't want to fuck people.
Yeah,
it's the worst. Like, dealing with people in general in any capacity is just the fucking worst. You know.
And like, I know we've been dwelling on this for too long, but like, who goes to a resort or a cruise or any place like that is a chill, relaxed, you know, just kind of literally floating around environment and don't expect to share with other people or talk to other people? Who expects to go on a family vacation and just stay in your little clique? Like, that doesn't happen. The only thing
I can think of is they are an incredibly like rich family and are used to going to restaurants and sectioning off like entire areas just for their tiny party that doesn't occupy the entire like seating capacity. That's the only thing I could think of.
Or Poland. But
or that.
But like, because like it's impossible. Like, I mean, I was nice and friendly to a lot of people. There's people that I literally just turned to my right and spoke to and ended up having a conversation with. There's people that did that to us. That is just the nature of those types of vacations.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like going to Disney World and you're just shoving people out of your way to get to a line. It's a chill, relaxed environment. Everyone's there for the same reason. So everyone feels like they have something in common. So everyone just turns and starts, and most of the time you're drunk because the alcohol is included also. But yeah. Anyway, Curacao is a really cool little country. I really enjoyed it. It's got a really cool history that's worth checking out.
Nice.
So
yeah, I was not familiar with it until you told me you were going. And then
no one is.
And then I immediately forgot the name of the country.
you know Aruba?
Yeah.
I think it's just like, it's either due east of Aruba or due west of Aruba. But it's close enough to Venezuela that if it's on a really clear day with not a ton of humidity, you can apparently see the mountains in Venezuela when you look south. We never did, cool. But that's what some of the tour guides and bus drivers had told us, that if you look south on a really, really clear day, you can see, like, you know how the water is one blue and the sky is another blue? you'll see a shade of blue that comes rises and falls in peaks in between the two blues.
Nice.
Because it's far enough away you can't make out any detail, but you'll see the outline of the mountains.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a really neat little place. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. Outside of the minor inconvenience, but what can you do?
Hey, it turned into a fun story to kill the first half hour of a podcast. I mean,
this felt like our version of like abject suffering from the Duck Feed Network is just like what bonkers ass story one of us has to tell.
Right? Wait, my car didn't get stolen. It was here at the house.
Oh, thank God. So the Kia boys didn't steal your boat.
The Kia boys didn't come and grab my Nissan. It's the wrong car.
They will at some point because they are just planning world domination. The Kia boys, you got to watch out.
Again, another name for a band, but it's a band made up of giant hamsters. Oh man, what movie are we here to cover, Geoff?
Well, we are going to be talking about The Night House, but first, we didn't have any questions for the show, but we did have a couple of comments that I wanted to include.
I don't remember where this one came from.
Yeah, they're always, and it makes it even more fun to not have any memory of our conversations or context whatsoever. It always makes it more fun. So Bobby's first comment on our Drive Angry episode was he wants to see The Rock as Spider-Man now. LOL. I don't fucking remember talking about The Rock at all in that one.
I don't
apparently
either.
We did. And I don't know how we started talking about The Rock as Spider-Man, but I also want to see this because that'd be funny as fuck.
Yeah, that's The Rock has been in the news lately too, by the way.
How funny would it be if just like every time The Rock as Spider-Man shows up on the scene, he accidentally like rips through the suit, and he just does that like 7 times throughout the movie.
He just hulks out through the suit.
Yeah. It just ends up being like a little Spider-Man like tank top and the mask, and that's like all he's got left.
Oh man. I know he can't help himself, so this would never work, but he would actually be a great like body or form to put in a suit for the man spider.
Yeah.
The shredded suit on him and like the clawed hands with all the fur and the 8 eyes and the mandibles and stuff. Like because I mean, Peter Parker hulks out through the suit just like we're describing, right? And the suit just hangs in tatters on the man spider. Like, yeah.
I also like how he's basically like the exact same size as Venom would be.
I
but he's
know,
just
right?
An actual dude.
I don't think he'd be a good Venom, but he definitely is Eddie Brock sized, Venom sized.
Yeah, you can imagine him like it's just like a 1-to-1 size translation. All you gotta do is just slap CGI on him and you're good to go, you know?
Right? And just have Tony Todd re-record all of his lines and you're golden.
Yeah, which is so weird. It's like they said that it's not him and that it is Tom Hardy, but it sounds like Tony Todd. Why didn't you just hire Tony Todd to do the lines instead of like going through all the motions of doing that voice modulation when all you had to do was just hire the guy?
And that's exactly what Spider-Man 2 for PlayStation 5 has done. Venom is
Really?
Tony Todd.
Oh, is it really?
It is. As soon as I heard it in the trailer, I was like, oh my God, that's Tony Todd. I know that's Tony Todd. And they had silence on it. And then they finally announced it in like, I think a blog post or something recently that they confirmed it is Tony Todd doing the Venom voice.
Nice.
It's so good, Geoff.
Just one of the greatest voices of all time.
We need to get Candyman on this show.
Yeah, I've never actually seen Candyman. So that'd be
really?
Yeah, it's one of my blind spots for horror is Candyman.
I didn't see the most recent one, but I've seen shit. I don't know. I saw all of the originals. I can't remember how many there are now, like 3 or 4, but I saw all of them. But the first one especially is fucking terrifying. Very
rare for there to be a like horror franchise where Ron's seen them all and I haven't seen any of them. Usually it's their opposite.
It's either fucking terrifying or another case of I think I was like 10 when I watched it. So I don't know.
I mean, it's Tony Todd. It's gonna be great.
Oh yeah,
Tony Todd's fucking amazing. Oh, and Bobby's other comment that we actually do have context for is he said that I always felt that Billy Burke is underrated.
Absolutely.
I like Billy Burke. Typically, my criticisms were specifically for like the way his character was done, not as like a detriment to like him as an actor.
He did what they paid him to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he did the job. I just thought his character was a little bit of a trope, a little bit too far, like Crank 211. But I like Billy Burke as an actor.
But he did what they asked him to do splendidly.
Yeah, for sure.
My favorite Billy Burke moment is in Twilight. No, he is her mom in Twilight, or her dad. Ooh,
that is a fascinating, fascinating performance.
I would actually go back and watch Twilight if Billy Burke was the mom.
Behold the Twilight of man.
The Twilight of woman. But I always think of Mafia. He's the dude's brother, and especially the taser scene, because he's like head of security, and I can't think of his name right now, but dude that owns the casino sees a person cheating, and he keeps doing like little like subtle like mafia like head nods to the guy that's cheating. You know, in movies I would just walk right up to the person in the busy casino and grab him.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of doing that, Billy Burke like tases the guy next to the guy, and he's just like, no, and he like does another like head nod, like a bigger head nod, and then he goes over to the wrong table and tases a guy with like a cattle prod, by the way. And
nice.
He looks back at him and he's like, no. Over then he starts doing like hand motions, like, no, that guy. And then he just, by the end of it, the only person still standing, he even does the blackjack dealer, he does a waitress. Like, by the end of it, the only person he does not tase is the cheating guy who grabs all the chips on the table and runs. And then Billy Burke goes, "Who?" It's fucking amazing.
That's awesome.
That, and also there's a scene where he opens his car door, and the entire car is filled from the bottom to the top with cocaine, and it just rolls out, and he steps out of the cocaine. It's great. If you haven't seen Mafia, it's got Lloyd Bridges as like their godfather. It's great.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's what I always imagine or remember Billy Burke from. But yeah, Billy Burke's great. I love him.
Yeah, he should be in more stuff. I feel like he's not in enough stuff.
I feel like there's a place for him in the MCU somewhere, but you know what just occurs to me, especially with the way he carried himself in Drive Angry? For some reason, there's a character in Justice League Unlimited that they kept using. He might as well have been one of the main stars on the roster because he was in so many episodes, and I don't get it. But Billy Burke wouldn't be a bad vigilante, probably.
Yeah, as soon as you started talking about Justice League, I was like, he's gonna bring up Vigilante, which is actually a pretty good pull. Like, I'd watch the fuck out of that.
Why was Vigilante in like half the episodes? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Because he's easy to write for because he's not Superman or Batman. I don't know.
Very bizarre. They also used the fuck out of Green Arrow in those episodes. Those
Green Arrow is Batman, but funny. So yeah. I get that.
Yeah, they had it was like always Vigilante, always Green Arrow, always Black Canary, and then there's like a rotating cast of like the most random the most random characters you can think of.
Real quick, because I know we have to move on because I took up too much time earlier, but one of my favorite, you mentioned Green Arrow and Justice League Unlimited, and you talk about Hot Girl having some fucking lines in Justice League. There's an episode where Supergirl gets cloned into Power Girl, right? But the guy that clones her advances her age, so she's in her physical prime. And the thing that is most noticeable in her, especially because of her suit, is her cleavage. And Supergirl goes, it's like, whoa, she looks exactly like me. And Green Arrow goes, she's a little more mature than you. And I was like, holy crap, guys.
They didn't fuck around with some of their dialogue in that show.
The first Justice League, Hot Girl, and the Flash, he was like, I'm the fastest man alive. And Hot Girl in the background goes, maybe that's why you can't get a date. And I was like, what?
Yeah, he was like, they got this on the air? What the fuck?
This is a kid's show. I'm the fastest man alive. Maybe that's why you can't get a date. There's also one where I don't remember what was happening, but I've always remembered the line on Wonder Woman was like, surely men can't be that important to your way of life. And Hot Girl goes, hey, don't knock it till you try it, sweetheart, or something like that. And I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, it was a little out there with the innuendos.
Hot Girl's my kind of girl, man. Like, yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, let's talk about the Night House though. Let's talk about the movie we were talking about. 35 minutes in, new record time of preamble. So let's go. Let's go. We had a full blown other podcast before the podcast.
Right?
Yeah,
I
two
still say we
podcasts.
need to start another one that's just, what's on your mind today, Jeff? What's been happening with you lately? And just,
You know what
just
really
shit
grinds my gears? Germans at barbecues.
There's no schnitzel here. Yeah. No, we just need to start a whole other podcast that's just what the first 35 minutes of this was.
Yeah, I agree.
Just cut it at an hour. There's no topic. An hour, half hour. Just at 30 minutes, we're done. Sign off and out.
Yeah, just absolute
You know how many of those we could front load?
A lot.
Just sit down for 2 hours. You've got like a month's worth of podcast.
Yeah, it's kind of genius.
We should do that.
We should do that.
I
We
think
probably
we just-
won't do that, but
I think we just
should.
did. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Goodbye. Yeah, let's talk about the Night House, though. This was my selection. I wanted to have this on the show as an excuse to finally watch one of David Bruckner's movies that I have not seen. As we talked about in the last episode when I announced it as the next movie we'd be covering, David Bruckner, I believe, wrote and directed the accident segment of Southbound, which is fantastic. Did he write and direct The Ritual, or did he purely direct The Ritual? I cannot recall.
I cannot recall. If you give me
I'm gonna have
one
to
moment.
verify. I'm pulling up his. Okay, so he directed The Ritual but did not write it. Okay.
And that's the same thing with this movie.
Yes, correct. Yeah, he directed this one but did not write it. So, with the Night House, I would say, if you have any interest in the Night House, to watch it before you hear us talk about it, because to me, if you watch this knowing the full extent to which things are actually supernatural, I think it would kind of like kill the entire kind of pacing of the movie to me, because to me, like, the most interesting thing was trying to figure out what the fuck's going on, the kind of like mystery behind it, and to what extent is this supernatural, to what extent is this the
In her
protagonist
head.
going crazy. To me, that is the interesting part of the story, is the mystery behind it. So spoilers for the Night House. We did not find this up for streaming on any services, but you can rent it for the like $4 on YouTube and Amazon.
I did Amazon.
Yeah, so again, check out if you have any interest in it. I liked it. I have some I have some qualms with like the writing.
A resounding I liked it.
I have some issues with it. None of
Okay.
it being David Bruckner. I think the direction is fantastic. I think the acting is very good, especially from Rebecca Hall.
Yeah, Rebecca Hall, just like
she's
Toni Collette
amazing.
in Hereditary.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna bring that up. I was getting so many Hereditary vibes from this because it's very similar in tone.
So that's what I was gonna tell you,
yeah.
you asshole. Is I expected this to feel a lot more like The Ritual, but this is a lot closer in tone and film and editing, like filming technique and editing and sound design, to Hereditary.
Yeah.
And I shit you not, last night was like, nope, I have to go to bed at some point tonight. And I turned it off with about an hour remaining.
So what was the scene that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, where you were just like, nope, I'm out, I'm going to bed?
I'm trying to remember exactly. I watched her discover something awful. It's right about an hour in, and once I got to that scene, it was like back to morning. I'm like, there's a stopping place. Goodbye. I'm trying to remember exactly what, because the whole movie is kind of blurring together for me. I wonder if I can just pull up Prime and mute it real quick and go through.
Pull up the exact scene.
Yeah.
Well, while you're
It's
pulling up
probably
the scene,
you know what? It's safer to do that on my phone.
I will go through the beginning of the cast and crew.
Yes,
while
please.
you're researching that. So as we had already mentioned, it's directed by David Bruckner. By the way, did you see that David Goyer is one of the producers on this? I
did not
realized
see that.
Yeah, David Goyer is one of the main producers on this.
Huh.
Kind of cool. It was written by Ben Collins and Luke Petrovsky. They are two writers that Bruckner has worked with on other stuff. At least one of them, if not both of them, helped him with his Hellraiser soft reboot that happened last year, which was okay. Again, my quibbles with that movie were mostly writing. Again, and not the direction. I kind of want Bruckner to go back to writing and directing on his next thing, because I as much as I love The Ritual, I also like a lot of the original stuff that he's written. Like his story that he wrote and directed for VHS is very good. Did you ever see VHS? That was kind of like the anthology film with all the different horror stories combined together.
I did not, and I know what it was now. At about an hour, we've already declared spoilers. So at about an hour is where she finds the second house and finds the statue, and then goes back and starts looking through the books and like looks at the statue in the book, and there's like the highlighted segments of the book. And then it was when she turned and started Googling the bookstore. I'm like, there's a good place. I see where this is going. She's going to go to the bookstore. I will pause here because now I know I have the Necronomicon. I see witchcraft. I see voodoo dolls. I know that something supernatural is most definitely probably happening. And I have to go to sleep at some point tonight. So
yeah, that's what was interesting. I found the first half of this movie more compelling than the second half of it.
Okay.
I felt like the first half of it had more like legit scares to it and like more kind of mood, like more intensity to it than the second half. Because like the first half is just like really driven home like by the fact that you're not sure if she's nuts. There's also like an entire mystery behind it on whether or not she killed the husband, which I found interesting.
Oh,
because
I've never considered that.
Yeah, at the beginning of the movie, you never see the suicide happen, and then they have that
hear
scene
it later.
Yeah, they have the scene where she is talking to the parent that comes in when she absolutely fucking from the top rope decimates this Karen,
dude,
which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
No. Did you see that woman is credited as Becky? that woman's name is literally Becky in the movie. Dude. And it could not be like, damn it, Becky. No, I was specifically going to mention that scene when we got there.
I've seen some.
That's
amazing.
One of my favorite things. That was me with that fucking German asshole. Like, that is. Oh my god, that scene.
Yeah.
It's
okay,
hard
so
to listen to, and is awesome because, I mean, this movie deals a lot with if for some reason you were listening and still have not watched the movie. This movie deals a lot with grief and like how someone would try to cope with grief in the wake of a suicide.
Yes. Just real quick, so the basic plot line is we follow Rebecca Hall's character, who is directly after the funeral of her husband who has committed suicide. Shockingly, that was completely unexpected.
In a violent way. He shot himself through the mouth with a gun.
Yeah. Yeah, they live in a house like right on the coast. They're in New York, like New York State somewhere. I don't know if they ever say like the exact city,
I don't
but
think
they
ever say where.
They're in New York, and they're like on a little lake house.
Yeah.
And he went in the middle of the night on their little boat next to a dock, drifted a little bit out into the lake, and then shot himself like absolutely shockingly. And she's trying to come to grips with the suicide, and she's thinking about selling the house because it was built by her husband. Yeah. So like the Hereditary vibes are just like all over this movie, because what Hereditary does really successfully is if you boil down like a supernatural phenomenon around grief and tragedy within a family, you instantly hook viewers because you have more pathos to a character that is going through a very, very similar situation that a lot of us have gone through personally in our own lives, versus like the way like a slasher film operates, where people are just kind of like plot devices to be murdered for the slasher.
Mm-hmm.
You can have like a lot of empathy for the characters if you have them in this type of situation. So I think it is really, really well set up. So the scene we were talking about though with the parent, so Rebecca Hall's character is a teacher, and a parent of a kid who got a C in his speech class walks up to her in person the week after she's just gotten back from the funeral of her husband, and is trying to like weasel her way into getting her kid a better grade, and Rebecca Hall just absolutely fucking
not
demolishes
having
her.
it. She's not having it. She's just trying to eat her barbecue. That's gonna be just a phrase that no one uses that I'm gonna start using.
There you go. Respect.
Just trying to eat her barbecue. Yeah. Oh, I love this scene so much.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, so like the way she ends like that conversation is just like, yeah, so I just got back from from burying my husband. I don't care which Hunter got a C in his elective high school speech class.
It's more brutal than that. She was just like, all right, you want a B? And she just like opens the laptop and pushes the B key next to the kid's name. And she's like, there, he got a B. She's like, oh, that's not what I want. She's like, well, what did you want? What did you want when you walked in here? Because she's like, I just buried my husband because he shot himself at our house. And she's like, I didn't know. And she's like, oh, so you want an A? And then she like hammers the A key real hard, just stares at her with this. Rebecca Hall has some amazing facial expressions that I think rivals Audrey Plaza.
She is on the level of Toni Collette in Hereditary in this movie.
Yes.
Like, she's absolutely fantastic at like just straight up carrying this movie.
And she slams the A key and just stares at her, and she's like, it cuts back to Becky, and Becky just goes, a B is fine. And then she slams the B key and stares at her again.
It's so good.
And she's just like, I'm sorry for your loss, and shuffles out.
So to me, what was kind of like adding to the mystery of whether Rebecca Hall killed her husband and faked the suicide is she is having moments where she's kind of like having these lost time moments where she's kind of like sleepwalking or doing shit without her like being conscious for it, and she has been Googling guns. This is like the inkling to me that was making me think they were kind of insinuating a little bit. Do we actually know for sure if this was a suicide, or is she dealing with the grief of having killed her husband?
That's so interesting, because that's not how I took that.
Yeah, I was trying to like kind of figure it out in real time, and I thought that aspect of how you don't know the full extent of the suicide of what happened.
Also, that's the first time you get the story. Was her yelling at Becky. That's the first time you even get the story of what happened.
Yeah, they have just basically been showing the fact that the husband had died. They didn't go into specifics until then.
See, I saw that and immediately thought that she was like considering suicide herself.
Yeah, that's what's really cool is like the first half of this movie is like so up to interpretation. I think it's really well laid out as far as you don't know the full extent of the suicide. You don't know the full extent of her psychosis. You don't know if she is dealing with grief because of one thing or another. It's very, very like subtly going about giving you details on what's actually happening, and I think that's like the strong suit of the movie.
Yeah, I the way that this movie unfolds the mystery about her husband and everything is really well done, I think.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get into some of the supernatural aspects later that I think are incredibly done.
There's just like one of the coolest like practical and special effects.
I know. I love it so
really,
much.
Really fucking cool.
It's really unsettling.
Yeah. And it's so simple and it's so good.
It's such
it is
a
like this
movie's
idea. It is like this movie's equivalent of having the convenience store in the woods in The Ritual. It's like this movie's version of that, where it's just like, it's such a simple idea, but they execute it so fucking well. And it like, oh man, it's so good. Well, yeah, we'll talk about it. So yeah, these writers, Ben Collins and Luke Petrovsky, have worked with Bruckner on a couple of other projects. We have, as we mentioned a few times, Rebecca Hall is the main character, Beth. Sarah Goldberg, who most people will recognize from Barry. She is the lead with Bill Hader in Barry. Plays Sally. Did you ever watch Barry, Ron? I think you'd really like Barry if you.
No, but my dad talks about it a lot.
It's really fucking good. It's a great show. We also have Vondi Curtis Hall, who I was like, where the fuck have I seen this guy?
I know, and every time I see his IMDb, I'm like, I've seen this picture a million times.
Yeah, and he is Ben Urich from the Daredevil show. That is the main thing I know him from. The reporter from the first season.
He's one of those that his IMDb Yep, seen it. I don't know who the fuck you are in any of these things. Like I've seen the things, but I can't place him. But yeah, that's one of my favorite characters in Daredevil. So
yeah, he's awesome. The Bondi Curtis Hall is an amazing character actor who should be in more stuff.
Absolutely.
He's fucking awesome in everything he's in.
He's great in this too.
He's really good.
He's the right mix of innocent and slightly suspicious.
Yeah. We have playing Owen, the husband who had committed suicide. I googled how to pronounce his last name.
Oh, thank God.
If it's incorrect, I apologize. That was basically all I could do was to try to figure it out. Evan Jonakite.
Damn it.
Yeah, Jonakite. According to the pronunciation I found, I don't know if that's correct or not. I apologize if it's not. It is a very specific name, and I would have almost guaranteed you that this guy was like from like Sweden or some European country.
That's why I said what I said.
But he's apparently an American actor. He was born in Pennsylvania. He just has a crazy last name.
Days of Future Past. He's Toad?
I know him mostly from the TV series Frontier with, oh God, blanking on his name, Jason Momoa. Have you ever watched Frontier? It's pretty damn
No,
good
but my dad talks about it a lot.
Your dad has seen every fucking show. It's kind of amazing.
That's all he does.
I respect that. And he just watches like everything from all genres, no matter what. He just watches it all.
Before the days of streaming, the previous button on your remote, you can flip between two random channels that aren't related to each other in any way. They're not next to each other. Like you could flip between like HBO and like channel 8.
Yeah.
He would do that. He would have like TNT, like there's a movie on TNT or USA, and it would go to commercial, and he would hit that button and flip to another thing. And he would do that enough that eventually he would see the entirety of both movies because they would be playing on repeat enough. And be like, oh, that's on again. I'll watch it again. And eventually he'll run across the parts he missed watching the other thing. He will watch two things at one time. I don't think he does that anymore, but he used to. And it drove me up the fucking wall.
He's like TV Rain Man to be able to process all the information simultaneously.
It's just like, I don't like commercials. I'm like, yeah, but I know that you're going to be here too long. The commercial breaks are only 4 minutes. Yeah, I could not watch TV with him. It had to be a movie.
Yeah, so that's basically everyone else is just kind of the supporting cast of
Mr. John here. Evan John, he is pretty good in this.
I thought it was literally another actor named Evan John, so I was like scrolling through the other cast members.
That is me noping out.
Yeah, Jonna Kite, allegedly.
Like fly a kite, Jonna Kite.
Yes, yeah. So we've talked about the kind of cast and crew. I think we can kind of move on with like specific plot points, unless you have any other barbecue stories that you'd like to segue to.
I'm just trying to eat my barbecue, man.
Yeah, just trying to eat your barbecue, on your deserted island that may or may not be inhabited by cannibals or Nazi scientists. I don't fucking know. Whatever you want to.
How's the uninhabited island habited? What did you just say to me?
It's uninhabited as far as we know.
So the cannibals have boats?
And then you show up there, and they live underneath like the sand. They're crab people.
But see, that's the cool thing. There's not sand. There is at the beach. But both islands are made out of coral. They used to be on the bottom of the ocean, and then because of tectonics, they got pushed up out of the water. So the entire islands are fossilized coral.
I love that even 15 years after Walking Dead has no longer been relevant. My brain still reverts to that fucking Carl meme.
I love the one where they stretch his face out across the beam. It's coral.
I can never hear the word coral again. It fucking ruined it for me.
Oh, it's so good.
I'll always think of that fucking meme. Oh, The Walking Dead. Oh, man.
There's a fascinating episode. Talk about what the fuck happened to The Walking Dead.
Yeah, what the fuck? I mean,
it went from my favorite show on TV to what the fuck is this?
After like 2 seasons of TV, it went from the most popular thing like of all time to just an absolute fucking travesty. But the thing was, is because it was like the biggest show of all time. 2/3 the audience left, and that remaining audience was still so large, it got an extra like 6 seasons of television. It's fucking bonkers, man. And they're like still making fucking movies for it.
Dude, season 2 of that show is my favorite season, and it's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
All the stuff with was it Daryl? Is that his name? Norman Reedus with looking for the little girl, and the barn on the farm.
Yeah.
Don't go near the barn.
And our boy Bernthal had a lot to do.
Yeah, he was still in it. Season 2 is when he gets it, right?
Yeah. Spoilers.
What? Yeah.
Man, there's so many fucking segues in this episode. It's like almost as bad as our Drive Angry. You remember like the last episode we recorded where it was just a fucking batshit never-ending series of segues? We're like one-upping our last episode somehow.
Every episode we get a little worse. And eventually, eventually the name of the podcast is just gonna be segue.
Yeah. Speaking of segues, and then we'll just maybe talk about the movie or maybe not. I don't know. We'll fucking see.
It's our show, man. We're just trying to eat a barbecue. Oh.
Okay. One of my favorite scenes from this movie that I think is like so well done, and again, Bruckner is just like one of those like masters of something simple. When she's getting the text from her dead husband,
yes,
is so fucking bone chilling, dude. But it shouldn't be, because it's just her getting texts, but her like facial reactions to it and her performance and just the tension of the scene from the way it's directed and shot. It's so fucking scary.
It's so unsettling.
And then like what they decide to include in the text of like come down because he wakes her up in the middle of the night. Well, she doesn't know who has woken her up yet, but something wakes her up in the middle of the night by playing her speaker system at like full blast, plays a song in the living room. She gets a text from her dead husband saying, "Come down, don't be afraid." And then she goes and looks out the window after calling the number back and, getting kind of like cryptic messages that's, being spoken to her by what she thinks is Evan, her husband. And then she looks out on the lake and he's just standing on the water naked. And it's just like, it's so chilling, dude. It's so good.
He turns and looks at her over his shoulder too.
So good.
Oh man. The thing that I kept waiting for is to hear the other phone ringing somewhere. But there's a moment later what I was texting you about subtitles is when you hear Owen speak occasionally, it's so soft. And I was using my AirPods to listen, and I would have to crank them up to hear what he says in places.
Yeah, I apologize. I think I basically said Evan because that's the actor's name. Owen is the character's name.
Right.
So yeah, Owen. Sorry, fucking Evan and Owen, for whatever reason, they're just like, we're just gonna be the same.
Uncle Evan, no. Hey, God damn it, Geoff! Never take the scene from the top. So what were some other like standout moments for you from the movie? So there is something about in horror movies when it's done well, especially like it is in this movie, when like a character delving deep into someone's past and that person's not around to defend themselves, everything to do with her finding the picture and is this me? Is this not me? And then that leading to finding a fucking voodoo doll and a whole second house. I mean, the guy even had in his book, like, this is our house, and then a couple pages over, there's the mirror house, right? The second house. And then she fucking finds it. It's like, is this real or not? And she fucking finds it.
Yeah, it's trying to actively misdirect you on whether this is like real or not. If it's real, is it like a parallel reality? That's another aspect of the plot that is kind of like teased a little bit that you're not 100% sure.
Yeah,
on,
like how much of this is paranoia and delusion?
Yeah. You know what? Another movie. I think this movie is kind of like a blend in tone between Hereditary and Sinister. It has a lot of like Sinister DNA to it. Of like you watching this character, just like, the deeper they dive, the more like the more they're fucking themselves.
Yeah,
and you just like can't help but watch.
I I was thinking it was a blend between Hereditary and Torchwood, because there's an episode of Torchwood I have told you about in the past that has a lot of the same notes from this movie in it when we get to the supernatural stuff. It's one of the best. It was like a 2 or 3 part episode of Torchwood. It was like some of the best episodes in Torchwood.
Nice. Yeah, I always mean to go back and watch Torchwood.
I don't know if you're wanting me to explain the connection or not later that I made, but
you can go ahead and say it. By the time I get around to watching it, if I do, I will have completely forgotten this conversation happened.
Every time I say that, that's usually the one thing I can't fucking forget. I'll forget by then, and then I don't. Any other time I would have, but I guess I made it. I guess I punctuated it somehow by saying that. So when we start getting into the supernatural aspects of it, right? Are you wanting to jump right to finding out who Owen is?
Yeah, we've already, again, if you have an interest in this movie, go watch it, because the less you know about what is actually happening, the more interested you're going to be in really diving into the plot. And when you find out what's actually happening is pretty cool.
Yes, it's really cool. A lot of the reviews for this movie say that finding out that like it is supernatural like really kind of undercuts the movie. It does a little bit, but I think it still accomplishes what it wants to do, and I like the way the supernatural aspect is done in this movie very well, so it didn't really bother me. But I do agree that it does undercut like the first hour of the movie a lot.
Yeah. By the way, so how common was it that people were complaining about that? Because it actually has like an 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like this did really well with critics.
There was nothing like specific that I saw. It was mainly just perusing some of the sites and Wikipedia. But
gotcha.
It was all like, this movie is a 7 or an 8 out of 10. I loved it for this, but you know, there was this or that undercut the main plot.
Yeah.
So,
which is kind of like similarly to how I felt.
An actual fair criticism, believe it or not. You can read a lot of that paraphrase in the critical response on Wikipedia. That it's pretty much what I saw, just kind of poking around a little bit. But so, okay, Geoff, here's why I say this. We've already talked about the hereditary connections, right? For those that don't know what Torchwood is, there's a character that spins off of Doctor Who into his own show called Torchwood. There's a whole fucking reason for why it's called Torchwood. Go watch Doctor Who. They talk about it.
It was really just because they wanted to use the anagram.
Yes. Yeah, it's Doctor Who. That you can rearrange the letters from Doctor Who to Torchwood. And they, the main guy of Torchwood cannot die. Again, watch Doctor Who to find out why. But he cannot die. And Bern Gorman gets it in like, I don't know, season 2 probably. I think they kill him off. And then I think season 3 is when they bring him back to life.
Okay. God, I love Bern Gorman.
And he ends up dying again eventually because like his body is still rotting and falling apart and shit.
Nice.
It's real gruesome.
Zombie Gorman? Why haven't I seen this show?
And he, but when he comes back, he talks about how there's nothing. It's just nothing but black and dark. But there's something in the darkness. There's some presence. There's some entity in the darkness, and you can't see it, but you can feel it, and you can feel it
there,
and you can feel it looking at you. And there's one thing that it wants, and one thing only, and that is Jack, because he should not exist. He should not be able to evade whatever this presence is. This nothing. And this nothingness wants Jack. And it wants him so bad that in this, like, it was like 2 or 3 parts. I don't think it was 4 parts. But at the end of the second part, or the beginning of the third, it takes physical form in our world in the shape of shadow and darkness, outlining a shape that looks a lot like the Ghost of Christmas Future.
Okay.
and strong Grim Reaper vibes, right? But it's made out of darkness. It looks a lot like the nurse boss in Bloodborne, the wet nurse.
Murgo's wet nurse.
Murgo's wet nurse. Which is for anyone who's not familiar with Bloodborne, that's a real fucking strange name I just connected it to.
Yeah, but like not weird for them. They have a weird fascination with wet nurses because there's like multiple wet nurses across the games. Just like someone's got a weird thing going on over there from
someone's got a fetish. Someone's got a kink. So anyways, this darkness comes for Jack. And they have to save Jack from it and send it back to where it belongs, and that ends up taking like Burn Gorman and a couple other characters that were brought back from the dead during the course of all of this. But there's a lot of what I just said that literally aligns to this movie, but with Hereditary mixed in the pot.
Yeah. It's really, yeah.
And like I said, those episodes of Torchwood were some of the best. And Torchwood, because Torchwood starts out goofy and dorky, kind of like Doctor Who, but all of a sudden, these episodes were fucking dark and
that's
grim.
one of the best things about Doctor Who, too, is you could have one episode that was like, just a straight up comedy, and the next one is like an analysis of mankind, like Midnight. Yeah. And then you'd have one that is just a straight up fucking horror movie, like Blink. Like they could just
Blink.
Whatever genre they want to do, they have it accessible to them because that show is just a blank canvas. It's pretty incredible.
That intro to Blink, by the way.
Oh fuck, dude.
Oh, it's so good.
Blink is fucking just masterfully done. Okay, but back to the Night House. One major important part of the plot we did not talk about is Rebecca Hall's character has talked about how in the past, it was like when she was in high school, right? Like she talks about how when she was in high school, I believe, she was the passenger in a car that like rolled off of a mountain and pancaked, and she was dead for 4 minutes.
Yes.
Just officially announced dead for 4 minutes. And this is where she talks about having, but she'd been asked, like, what did you see? And she tells everyone, like, I saw nothing. And she wasn't, like exactly lying, because like what she is seeing is this just like kind of what you're describing, like this entity that is there but is not at the same time. It's just like a presence more than like a figure. And the coolest fucking part of this movie is the way they present this like being inside.
I love it so much.
The way they present him, and it's so cool and like apropos of like him as a concept. They present him in the absence of stuff on the set with like forced perspective shots being used to show him moving.
Think Kong Skull Island. Think Kong Skull Island, that one scene when they're talking about Kong and there's all the spikes and shit raised up that are painted a certain way, and when the camera moves, you see the image of Kong and stuff.
Yeah. Dude, how fucking cool is that one shot where they show her looking down a hallway and the outline of his like neck and face is the entirety of the hallway?
Yeah.
It's fucking incredible, and you cannot explain it, you just have to see it.
And when she looked up, and instead of a 2-story house, it was like a fucking 40-story house, and all the floors and balconies and the staircases made out the outline of his head. I'm getting goosebumps fucking talking about it.
Fucking amazing. It's like you took like Hereditary, and all of a sudden the architecture is like Doctor Strange architecture, and it just starts like fucking moving. And yeah, you cannot explain it. You just have to see it because it's so fucking unbelievably cool.
The architecture changes in this are almost Lovecraftian. Like nothing makes sense. There's angles that shouldn't be there and shit.
Oh my god! Like, yeah, you're actively trying to like understand what you're looking at, and that feeling is like so unsettling.
What it is it's playing with that lizard brain part of your mind that is designed to recognize faces. So it's playing with, they know no matter how they do this, you're going to see this one thing they want you to see. And it kind of breaks your brain while blowing you away at the same time.
Yeah, it also plays with like it also plays with your lizard brain when it comes to like trying to find patterns. because they just have like random pieces of the house, like to your point, that like shouldn't be there, and all of a sudden they're there. But what it's forming isn't like a shape; it is the absence of matter in the set.
Yeah, there's nothing there in the shape of something.
Yeah, it's just nothing there, and that is the entity, and it's like just this brilliant idea of like presenting him as like not a character there, but as like the absence of something.
I am getting a fucking shiver, and the hair is standing on the end on its end on my arms, thinking about the first time they do it, when she's walking by and there's a pillar holding up the ceiling, there's some chairs turned upside down and a bookcase, and it aligns to make a perfect Alfred Hitchcock outline of a person, but there's nothing there in that space. It's just light and shadow, and the shadow kind of resembles a person.
Yeah, it's like a side profile of a person.
And then the head turns to look at her.
It's so good.
And the first time that happened, I was just, like,
it's fucking amazing. I have never seen that before.
I have never seen that. And when she turns to like investigate it, it's gone. That specific arrangement is not there anymore.
Yeah, and like I bet some of it is practical too, because it's what they did with the fucking Lord of the Rings movies. You know, to give like that forced perspective of making the hobbits look smaller than Ian McKellen was forced perspective shots. The way that you have stuff arranged in the scene in relation to the camera. And they use the fucking thing to make Elijah Wood look small turns out to be this like fucking terrifying special effect in a movie 20 years later. It's so cool, dude. I like, as a movie nerd and as a horror nerd, it made me like geek out. I loved it so much. I loved it so fucking
good.
much.
It's so good.
Like, I talked about how I have like a few quibbles with the plot.
This fixes it.
It fixes everything, dude.
The technique.
It fixes fucking everything. It's so good. But let's talk about my quibbles, though.
Hang on, real quick.
Sure.
One of the reasons I was wanting to look at budget in this film, and I couldn't find anything saying anything about the budget. I know how much money the movie made, but I cannot find the budget, is because they are doing so much in this movie with so little. Like that special effect, that forced perspective special effect that they do, and they do it a couple of times, and it eventually does become CG, like with the balconies and shit. But there's not a lot of that.
There's really not.
And what they do is very simple, and it's got a small cast. There's like what, 4 locations. Like, this movie could not have cost a lot, and this movie is another one in the can that is an argument for why does a movie need to cost $300 million to make?
Especially for horror.
Especially for horror.
Horror is almost exclusively less is more. Like, you think about, like, one of the most like impressive feats of just a movie even existing is, did you ever see the first Paranormal Activity movie?
No.
How it's like, it was literally made with $10,000. And it's a fucking movie.
Isn't that how we got Clerks? Wasn't its budget $10,000 or something?
Pretty much. Like, he like maxed out his credit card and like sold his comic book collection to make the movie. So it was not a big budget at all.
Man.
But yeah. So I just wanted really quick. Overall, I really, really like this movie. I pretty much had like that same kind of critique that you were talking about, how like some of the things will undercut other things within the movie, but the sum of the parts is so good you don't really care.
Here's the thing too. Even when we transition to confirming the supernatural aspects of it, or not, depending on how you look at it, let me figure out how to say this. It works well within the movie. It's very well done. The way that it is done, or what they do, or how it's written, isn't necessarily what hurts it for me. It is the first half of this movie is so good at telling the story of a person going through grief. Like, the characters are so human, and it's acted so well, and it's written so well that you feel this woman's grief so much that it's almost jarring when we make the switch.
It's which in juxtaposed to that, Hereditary makes the switch flawlessly.
Right.
Because when Hereditary like flips that switch, it kind of masks this issue because it flips the switch purely for a 15-minute roller coaster ride of fucking terror.
Yeah.
You don't have time when Hereditary flips the switch for the last like 15 minutes. You don't have time to like form an opinion of you not liking how it's changed because you don't have time to breathe. And that is my critique of this movie is when she specifically starts like talking to the other lookalike, I think the movie is paced poorly. I think there is a like 30-minute span there when she is specifically interviewing and talking to the person that works at the bookstore, where I think the movie spends a little bit too much time focusing on the lookalikes versus what's been working in the first half of the movie and the really cool shit that happens at the end. There's just like a little bit of a lull where it's like if we just kind of like shorten the movie by about 15 minutes and lower the amount of scenes involving her investigating that aspect of the story and focusing more on the grief angles in the first half of the movie, having more like tension, because when she's just investigating and talking to like the lookalike, it's not really scary at that point to me. It's like, yeah, you're interesting as far as like looking at the movie as a whole and trying to figure out what's happening, and you're invested in it, but it's not the part of the movie. It's like, get back to the shit I'm more invested in.
So I had the exact opposite reaction to that. I think I had no issues with the pacing in this movie. The parts where she's doing the investigating and talking to the lookalike and stuff hit me like almost like film noir investigation story, because like there's so many different ways my mind took me as to what could be happening with Owen and who these women are. And
that's true.
And everything else that so first off, you're more of a horror nerd than I am. I needed to breathe. I needed my head to come above water.
I wanted more, dude. I wanted more. Like, give it to me, please.
I can't. I needed to come up for air, and that's what that gave me. Whereas a lot of stuff will do it with like humor, or some horror movies do it with like really awkward humor that shouldn't be there because it calls out what they're trying to do. This movie had a perfect avenue to let me breathe, not you, but to let me breathe by, we still have a mystery to solve here. And I don't know. I didn't have that effect because in my mind, it's like at this point, we still don't know. We suspect, but don't know that he's killing these women. But at this point, it's like, was he going to kill her? Is this someone that had her hooks into him? Is she the one that taught him how to do this shit? Is it when she shows up? I just knew when she showed up at the house and said she'd been there before that she was going to talk about like she's into the occult or witchcraft or something, and we were going to go down that avenue. I just knew there was going to be something of that sort.
It is really fascinating how good they are in this movie of teasing like 10 different routes the movie can go from here at this point in time.
Yeah.
And you never fully knowing like which direction it's going to take. It's really great. My only problem with that is like I totally get your point of like giving you a minute to like breathe, but they go about 30 minutes without having a single like horror element to the movie. You know, like they're pretty consistent. They're pretty consistent about having like a few minutes of plot and then like something that is scary. But it turns into just like noir investigations for about 30 minutes. And I would have liked at least like a little bit more, because it kind of like shifts gears and tone a little bit for a while and then shifts back. It's just, and again, this movie's like biggest problem is Hereditary existing, because Hereditary just like
I think this movie exists because Hereditary exists.
It's like
I think this movie started out as one thing and became a different thing because of Hereditary.
I can see that. I was just saying I can't help but compare it to Hereditary because they're so similar, and Hereditary just absolutely fucking nails the like, here is a scary thing, here is plot, here is character development, here's like I feel like they juggle the tone a little bit better than this. But as I've said, this movie is like an 8 out of 10. Like I really, really, really like this movie.
I think this started out as more of a mystery because the mystery is set up too well for a horror movie. There's too many angles to it. You know, it's too detailed for what horror movies usually do. I think this started out being something that was probably more ambiguous at the end, and then it's like, well, fuck, Hereditary got away with it. Let's just go whole hog.
Yeah, you know what? It's almost like an old school like Shyamalan movie.
Yeah.
In that kind of like thriller mystery, like Signs. Like Signs, I think is actually a pretty good point of comparison. Where, you know, a lot of Signs is trying to figure out how much of this is actually happening, how much of it is paranoia, you know, balancing character development with like this supernatural. I know it's like, you know, like more science fiction than that, but you know what I mean? You know, like these different elements of the plot and like what is legitimately happening, what's in someone's mind, which is always is cool when it's well done, and it's really well done in here. I really really like how they decide to end the movie on a really really edge of your seat moment where you're not really sure if she is going to die or not. That scene. So like this movie's final scene is she has found out, the main character has found out that this entire time it's not been her husband, but it's been nothing. It's been the entity that, you know, desperately wants her to come back and join him in, you know, the afterlife or lack thereof afterlife.
Very Final Destination-esque.
Yeah, for sure. He has been, this entity has been desperately trying to pretty much get her husband to murder her. The husband has been actively killing lookalikes in a what is it, like a mirrored floor plan of their house.
Yes.
The husband has been trying so desperately because the entity has been whispering in his ear for years to kill the wife. You know, the entity has been trying to basically convince the husband to kill Beth, but he can't bring himself to do it, so he kills several lookalikes. And like, dude, when she finds all the bodies underneath the floorboard, like that, dude, that stuff is haunting. Like, it's rough. And then when you find out that he's been doing it to protect her, it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah,
because like you don't know the entire time until the last like 15 minutes if the husband was a bad guy or not. You don't really. It's like, yeah, he technically was because he's been killing people, but he did it to try to save his wife because he's been possessed by a fucking like entity in the afterlife. Like,
right. Yeah. By nothing.
By nothing.
Dude, the oh god, what was it? Oh, just finding the second house existing, I was just like, oh god, like that's where eventually I was like, nope, I have to sleep tonight. But the neighbor, like, it's like, how much does the neighbor actually know and shit? Yeah. Like, the characters in this have done so well. I thought for sure back when it was looking like, you know, it had something to do with he was having an affair or something. I just knew Claire was involved in that somehow. Or like they do something really good with Claire. I don't know if you noticed this about her character. Claire is blonde, but her roots are very clearly dark, and her face is very similar to Rebecca Hall's face. So if her hair hadn't been dyed, she could be one of the lookalikes. Mm-hmm. So like, I just kept waiting for the fact that they kept having her roots so prominently shown to be dark and that her hair is dyed to play into, like, I thought she was going to be the girl in front of the bookshelf. I thought that was going to be Claire.
Gotcha.
But
yeah, that's interesting. I didn't pick up on that idea like at all. That's really interesting though. I hadn't considered that.
Well, this is one of those movies that, like I said, I think it started off as a different movie because I found the mystery aspect of this movie to be super compelling. Like,
it's really good.
I wanted to keep following this mystery, especially how like every turn and twist it takes is just darker and darker.
And it also just leads to like every answer she gets opens up like 17 different questions.
Right.
And you never know like which direction it's going to take because it is like a hodgepodge of genres. Like because it is this weird mixture of like noir and mystery and thriller, but it has horror elements to it, and it has this like Hereditary vibe all over it. You never know which direction it's going to take because you don't know which movie genre you're ever watching at a given time. It's so good at like just transitioning between these like really really different tones while it never feeling like a clusterfuck, which I appreciated. Like this movie never feels like it's lost. It feels very honed in, and just the mystery of it is really really well presented and detailed, like you said earlier.
Yeah, I just him trying to literally fool. I guess we haven't really said what his goal was. He was using voodoo and like witchcraft to throw what I'm assuming is essentially death off of his wife's trail. Like when I said it's Final Destination-esque, like she died and then came back. So she died, she saw nothing, capital N, nothing. He saw her, and then she came back. So she left him. She basically walked out on nothing, and he wants her back. And he literally built an entire mirror version of their house and was using lookalikes, because one of the quotes in the book that was highlighted, I think it just starts being highlighted from the word can. It's like can be tricked or fooled with people that look similar or something. Like you can see it like underlined in red, which is also chilling. Like the choice to do red, like the episode of the Munsters. It's like that episode of the Munsters. Like, this is the reddest red ink I've ever seen.
And there's a big element behind mazes being involved too, because a lot of the like floor plans and drawings and stuff that Beth, the main character, finds after the death of her husband, when she's kind of just digging through files and stuff, trying to just kind of figure out what the fuck happened, is there's all these types of like maze layouts where the husband has been trying to figure out like anything he can to get her off the hook, to make Death think that he's finally caught her, and like it's incredibly fucked up how he's been killing random people to try, but like at the same time it is romantic, because like you said, he fucking built another mirror house. He has turned himself into a murderer. He kills himself because he thinks it might be able to save her. Like, it is heartbreaking the extent to which he tries to save. Like, he really loved his wife.
So there's so
many links.
There's a line that almost vilifies him at the beginning because of the choice of words used. I think it's Claire that says that he was obsessed with her. And then the next thing you find out is he's like kidnapping and killing all these lookalikes of her. And it's like, obsessed with her, how? But it turns out that no, he does truly love her and is doing everything he can, even becoming because let's be real here. He's killing innocent people. Like, he is a bad guy, but he's doing these awful things to try to save her.
Doing everything he possibly can.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, he's a good guy doing horrible things for a noble reason, but is, I guess, probably misguided is a good way to say it, because there's a theme.
And also in his defense, he has also been kind of driven crazy because he's been having this fucking nothing entity literally whispering into his ear for like 20 years, because they've been married for she says at the party at the bar, it's about to be their 15th anniversary. So they've been married for 15 years, had probably been dating before that. So he's had
at least 15 years.
At least 15 years of this entity driving him crazy. And he's just like basically just like exhausting every option he possibly can to try to save his wife.
He's at his wit's end. He doesn't know what to do.
How cool is it that like you don't know to what extent he's a bad guy, and when you do find out the full extent to what he's been doing, there's still a gray area in there. It's like, yeah, it's incredibly fucked up what he was doing, but you understand why, and you understand that he's also dealing with his own psychosis because he's been literally driven mad by an elder god for 20 years.
Let's stop and just step back for a second and appreciate the amount of character development for a guy that has like 3 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, and it's not even him.
And it's not even him.
There, it's the fucking it's nothing representing. How creepy is the scene where it looks like she there's this really cool effect where she reaches out and you see like the tips of her fingers press into something that's not there.
Yes.
That effect is really well done.
You mean when her fingers press into nothing?
Yes. So there's this whole scene where she is reaching out and she thinks she's interacting with the ghost of her dead husband.
This is the most chilling thing in the whole fucking movie.
Because it is very sensual. She is reaching out, and the flesh, like the fleshy point, like what would you like the pads of her fingers are depressing against nothing. It's a really cool effect. This entity starts like you see the effect of the entity like rubbing his fingers along her shoulders and her neck, and it's very sensual because she thinks she's being caressed by her dead husband.
Back up for a second. I don't think we have said that nothing is not pursuing her as a monster that wants to devour her soul. He is a lover that has been walked out on.
Yeah.
He is also obsessed with her, and to the point of in
the
love
one that
with
got
her.
away. It's the one that got away.
Exactly. Yeah. But he's in love with her in the way that I assume he is with everyone that comes to him, right? Mm-hmm. There's a term called death's embrace, right? That comes to mind here because an embrace can be a very romantic thing, right? That word can be used in a romantic context. So she felt death's embrace and then walked out on him. She came back. So this is a very sensual, romantic thing for nothing also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that is the wild part about this whole thing.
It's so unsettling when you find when she finds out and when you find out that it's been nothing who has been like caressing her, like essentially like kissing her neck. You
continue describing the scene because this is the most chilling thing, and I literally have goosebumps and my hackles are fucking raised thinking about it. You do it. You talk about it.
Yeah. So she reaches out and is touching this thing that's not there. It's invisible. The pads of her fingers like depress as she's pressing against it. Eventually,
her skin kind of is being depressed as nothing's hand is going up around her.
It's like brushing against her shoulder, brushing against her neck, and you see it happening just like in like the way that her like the hairs on her arm will kind of bristle. It literally flips her around to where it is behind her to caress her neck and everything as she's facing. It's incredibly sensual. And then later on at the end of the scene, it just says because I think doesn't she like call it by the name of her dead husband, and
she says like, Owen, and this is a voice that responds.
Yeah, it's just what is it? Is like I'm not Owen.
I'm not Owen.
Yeah, or like it says like not Owen.
I don't like it, Geoff. I love it, but I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's not okay.
And Rebecca Hall in this entire scene is acting against nothing. Like as an actress, she has nothing to go on, and she's so amazing in this scene. Where she's dude, at the very ending of that scene, when it fucking contorts her into the shape of the little like pagan statue thing,
the voodoo doll. Oh God. The voodoo statue.
It's fucked up, dude. It's fucking nuts. This movie's nuts.
Chekhov's voodoo doll.
Chekhov's voodoo doll.
Yeah, dude. I don't like it, Geoff. I heard I'm not Owen, it's just like I knew that. Obviously, I knew that. But hearing literally nothing say those words
after how sensual the scene's been presented as,
it's so awful.
It will chill your fucking blood, dude.
It is right now just talking about it. I've never been affected by a scene in a movie the way this one is affecting me right now. Like
so good.
Oh my God.
Dude, just like kudos to the direction, to Rebecca Hall, like just everyone involved with this is like when this movie works, this movie is like a 10 out of 10. It's absolutely crushing it. I think it has some now obviously just as like what's been portrayed as like having been parts of the movie that worked for you, it didn't work for me and vice versa. Just because like it's kind of cool that if you're like wanting to watch this as like a fan of thrillers, you can be engaged. If you're a horror guy, you can be engaged by it. If you're like a fan of the mysteries like you were, you can get really invested in it. It's like because it's working in all of these like avenues, you can kind of like approach the movie at whichever kind of like genre you want, and pick and choose like what parts really work for you, and then you can wait around for it to come back and be that genre again. It's a really interesting movie.
It's a build a horror movie.
Yeah.
What stuffing would you like?
I just imagine that little voodoo doll thing like in the Build-A-Bear workshop. I'm never going in Build a Voodoo ever again.
Oh, what have I done? Yeah.
Yeah. My last point, I really fucking love how this movie kind of ends on a positive note, because 99 times out of 100, the horror movie is going to end with this main character trapped in the like nether dimension thing. And that is just the way horror works. Most of the time it's a bad ending for the main character.
Well,
I think it's really cool how
the theme of this movie is the reason for that, though.
True. I was just saying, like, just it literally being something that ends on a somewhat positive note is really cool.
Yeah.
Because I would have bet my life it was going to end with her trapped in that realm with nothing. And it doesn't. She gets there. It shows like a lot of the horrible things that humanity can do, even for the best of reasons, like with her husband. And then like dude, she has the best friend in the universe.
Yeah.
Her friend fucking swims across the lake to try to get her to not commit suicide as she's gone there to check on her. She is like the best person in the universe. It shows like the links to which humanity can be terrible and the links to which humanity can be amazing. And it's just like a big like thesis on grief and like relationships, both romantic and not. And it's just like this movie has like insane amounts of depth to it, which I appreciate about it.
Well, the thing that they don't even allude to, they just put right in your face. The whole theming behind this is like suicide and
the finality,
mental illness, and grief and things like that. Because this movie is about a guy that killed himself, left his wife behind. Right? It's suicide is hardest on the people left behind, right? Because if you commit suicide, you're not here anymore. And this movie not only explores that, but like she is having this tendency towards suicide. And this is part of the reason why I think it also started out as a different movie. She's having these suicidal tendencies, at least that's the way it appears to everyone else. We know things that are supernatural are happening. But if you think about even that aspect, there is this voice, this nothing whispering in her ear, right? And it's not even subtle at the end of the movie. It's literally happening in front of you, telling her to do it. That voice is with her all the time. It is with her constantly. It is a shadow in the room with her, following her everywhere. It's just a darkness. It's just a shadow, just a voice talking to her. And now that she is alive and survived, it's like, this isn't going to end here. This is a thing she's going to be wrestling with her entire life. And when you have suicidal tendencies or thoughts, or you have bouts of depression or other like mental illness or whatever, what have you, it is a lingering shadow that is always there, always whispering. It's not
going to magically go away.
Yeah, it's always whispering in your ear. And this movie turns that into a physical form, in the form of nothing. And everyone else looks out in the boat and they just see the shadow of the trees and the boat and the light and the clouds. And she sees the outline of a person, and it can be both, but she's seeing it differently because she's the one that is hearing it. It is, I don't know if it's, I always confuse these two. I don't know if it's a metaphor, an allegory, or what, for people that have a tendency towards self-harm or what have you, because it is literally a specter that haunts them as a shadow that follows them around. That is the thing that blew me away about the end of this movie. And especially, I saw some of the critical response to the last line as being cheesy, but him looking out and saying there's nothing there, and she says, I know. Anyone who has ever suffered any kind of mental illness or thoughts of self-harm or harming others, like Owen, that's it. I know there's nothing there. It's nothing. I know. That's the thing. That's the whole problem.
Yeah, like you can't hear the dark thoughts in my head,
right?
Because I am the only audience for them.
Yeah,
I am the only person that can reckon with them because it's happening in the back of my mind at all times. It's a really deep, it's a really deep metaphor for. I would say it's most closely like resembling a metaphor for that voice in the back of your head that is always like there's also a bit of like survivor's guilt probably with her and what happened, because I'm assuming, I don't know if they say, I'm assuming the driver did not make it, so that's another element to it, because she says, you know, like she died and you know, like
I guess that's true.
But the driver, if it was bad enough to where she as the passenger died for 4 minutes, the driver probably did not live, but they never specifically say. But I imagine there's a bit of survivor's guilt, because in my kind of headcanon for it, I'm assuming based on the facts we're presented with that the driver didn't make it. So she's also had that bit of survivor's guilt lingering in the back of her mind for 20 years. And there's so many, and another great thing about this movie that I think will be my final point. A lot of the things you and I have been discussing are not spoon-fed to the audience. A lot of it is up to your interpretation. A lot of it is up to how much do you want to take the movie at face value versus how much do you want to deep dive.
My opinion is what I said about like suicidal thoughts and tendencies and it being a shadow. I think they throw away that and just throw it in your face at the end of the movie in the boat, because he's literally sitting in front of her like, do it, like egging her on, trying to get her to do it. And it's not being subtle about that at all. But I think at that point, they're so far deep down in the rabbit hole, I don't know what else they would do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's also playing with the fact that it is literally a supernatural being, you know?
Right. Which I don't think it was in the original draft of this.
You think it was all going to be just the kind of like metaphysical thriller?
I think a lot of it was going to be the same, but I think it was going to be more ambiguous as if it was in her head or not. But this thing is done and kind of written, not necessarily written, but definitely, like I said, filming technique and playing with light and shadow and sound design and everything is very similar. The click in Hereditary is the gunshot at the beginning of this movie. Like it's done very well. I think somehow Hereditary got its hooks into this movie. Someone saw Hereditary and said, you know, we have this movie. We can just change this part because Hereditary got away with it. And I mean, that sounds like I'm just being very dismissive of this movie. I like this movie a lot. I hope that has come across. I think this movie is extremely well done. I think David Bruckner is the perfect director for this movie.
Yeah. You can absolutely, if you look at the overall story of this and how character driven it is, with like the tragic passing of someone close to them, just like in The Ritual, you know,
right?
And that survivor's guilt, you can because that's what The Ritual's about. Like you can absolutely draw the parallels between The Ritual and this, and you can see why he would be interested in this, because so many of those same themes are present in The Ritual
and Southbound. The Southbound that he did,
yeah.
is about that same thing. The guy hits her and is trying to save her, right? Is that the one I'm thinking of? Is that the right one?
Yeah, the accident with the guy on his phone when he's driving.
And then he does all that to save the girl and she dies.
Yeah.
It's they're always my man Bruckner, go get some help.
Go get some Bruckner some therapy. Well, you know what? His fucking therapy is making these movies.
Probably.
It's gotta be cathartic as fuck, because they're so specific in like their emotional depth, and there's always parallels to them. Man, I love David Bruckner. I want to see what he does next. He is apparently doing I think I alluded to it earlier. So you should watch VHS. Not all of VHS works as well as like Southbound does. I think Southbound is more consistent, but a lot of the dudes in like the writers and directors list for Southbound were from VHS. There's a lot of crossover, not only with Bruckner, but there's a really cool story in my favorite bit from VHS. It's such a cool idea. It is, I believe, from the guys who wrote and directed the opening and the ending segments of Southbound. But pretty much the VHS story they did is these like 3 idiot teenagers, or like frat bros, are on Halloween night going to a haunted house exhibit thing.
That's a good idea.
They go to the wrong house and actually visit a haunted house that has a cult ritual going on, and they think it's all fake. They think they're at the haunted house exhibit, but
it's
they're
just
actually
you
in
and me on Halloween.
Exactly, and it's fucking genius, and I fucking love it so much. I gotta show you at least that segment because it's fucking amazing.
It's just you and me, like, oh, look at these idiots. Oh, that's exactly how you and I would die on Halloween.
Right?
Oh,
God, I love it so much.
That's so good.
But my earlier point was that Bruckner, I think, is returning to do another segment in the next VHS 85, which I'm pretty excited for because I like VHS quite a bit, just because it has a lot of those dudes from like Southbound that I like a whole lot, including Bruckner. I think also we mentioned Sinister earlier. I think Cargill and Scott Derrickson, who did Sinister, also have a story in the next VHS, which is going to be pretty cool. Because I love those guys a lot too. From Sinister and everything.
I'm trying to find the name. I have a question for you. I'm trying to find the name of a video game, but I can't remember what it was now. I'm looking at David Bruckner on Wikipedia. And have you seen the movie The Signal?
Signal. What is it about? It sounds familiar.
So he does Transmission 1, Crazy in Love. It's kind of like Southbound, like an anthology. But there's a line here on Wikipedia that reminds me exactly of a video game that I sent you that Rage Select covered. American horror film written and directed by independent filmmakers David Bruckner, Dan Bush, Jacob Gentry. Told in 3 parts. All telecommunication and audiovisual devices transmit only mysterious signals, turning people mad and activating murderous behavior in many affected. There is a Lovecraftian kind of game that I sent you that like crazy shit is happening based on what TV channel you're watching, like the hands.
Oh yeah,
like birds flying around and shit. It kind of like sounds like that. But I don't know. Bruckner does the first story in it.
That is apparently the Signal. He was a co-director on that. That is his first listed credit as a director.
That's what I'm seeing as well.
Yeah. I'm pulling up through my viewing history to see if I can locate that. Because I watched it. I actually don't think I'll be able to because I think was it like a Patreon one or something? I can't.
It might have been.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was pretty cool though. I did watch the entirety of it.
But yeah, that's what that kind of sounds like to me. But yeah, I love that fucking concept so much.
Yeah, it's really good.
Because, children, there was a time when TV went off the air at a certain time at night. And there was just nothing on TV. It was just static. So the idea of these rogue, like otherworldly supernatural TV stations coming on is perfect to me.
Man, what a hell of a movie, dude! Like,
dude, it's so good. The Night House. I love the mirror. Like, there's like a mirror dimension. I love the that shot they have of the red moon and the white moon, and it looks like a face. They look like the eyes. Even in the poster on IMDb, it's like half of a face. There's like the eyebrows and the eye sockets. The moon is the eye. The clouds are kind of the nose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so good.
Night Signal? Was it Night Signal?
Signal's the name of that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Signal, it sounds like it might have been kind of based on The Signal.
I can
mixed with Lovecraftian stuff, but I'm kind of curious.
Obviously, the Twilight Zone was
the scary door.
And now we will walk through the scary door. Yeah, I think I've just about touched on everything I wanted to discuss. Was there any last things you want to throw in about the Night House before we sign off, Ron?
No, man. I think we've exhausted it. I've exhausted myself reliving it.
It's a heavy movie. Like, it's really good, but like you'll feel it. Like, I can definitely understand like why you needed to kind of recharge about halfway through.
I was just like, nope. I don't know. I feel like throwing this out there because of the theming in this movie, probably. But everyone knows about the suicide hotline, right? But it's now changed to 988. It's like 911 is emergencies. And then the 988 is you can call it, you can text it. It's the suicide hotline now. I feel like just because of the theming of this movie and what this movie is really pushing, I just need to throw that out there.
For sure.
If you need to talk to someone, if you need to chat with someone, 988.
Yeah, you're not alone. There's always help.
One of our favorite podcasters, Ruff Garman, always says that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah, there's also
I think that is the best way to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also like, what is the other saying where it's like, it doesn't make the pain go away, it just transfers it to other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just to bring it all home, that is what the fucking stone in Dark Souls does that cures you of curse.
Yep.
It doesn't cure you of it. You just transfer it to other people or this fucking stone that used to be people. Like
I think we almost went through an episode without referencing Dark Souls, and then you had the 11th hour.
I had to bring it home.
You nailed it, dude.
I had to land it, much like my next movie.
Yeah.
What a segue.
What a fucking segue. Yeah, you go ahead and tell us the next movie is, and then I will do the plugs.
I need this movie now more than ever because of your fucking movie, Geoff.
You're welcome.
Here's the thing. I've done a lot of traveling this summer. Going to see my mother-in-law, going to Curacao. This movie was already my pick before you ever even announced this one. But I need it now more than ever, man. We got to watch Airplane.
Hell yeah.
We got to watch Airplane.
I'm surprised it took like 80 episodes for us to have Airplane on the show.
I was trying to make it exactly to 80, but, you know. Here's the thing. I've been in a shit ton of airports. I've been on a bunch of planes recently. I flew from here to Dallas to Miami, stayed overnight, went from Miami to Curacao. Then I ended up going from Curacao to Miami, stayed overnight, and then at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning, my wife wakes me up and says, our flight changed. It was supposed to be like 4 o'clock in the afternoon when we got home. It was going to be like past midnight. But she changed us to a different flight that we had to leave the hotel right fucking then. And
it sounds like you picked the wrong time to stop sniffing glue, man. That's all I'm saying.
It took us from Miami to Washington, D.C., back to here.
Nailed it. Yeah, planes are dumb. The way that shit all works is fucking stupid.
And the entire time, like, one of our bags didn't arrive. I had to go the next day and turn in a ticket to get my bag. Like, everything that could possibly happen. Just the first plane that we were on in Dallas, all of a sudden, we're past the flight time. The plane's been sitting there since noon. It's now 3 o'clock. We're supposed to be in the air at 2:30. Like, eventually we find out that plane is broken, and they moved us to a different plane on the other side of DFW. If you've never been to DFW, it is a fucking city on its own. And to go from one from one terminal to another terminal involves a train ride. And
yikes.
Like, it was just ridiculous. Like, I had every travel trope that could happen to me. And all I could think of was, I need to watch Airplane.
Fuck yes, we do.
I need to get it out of my system now. So Airplane is my next pick. If it wasn't, it probably would be after this movie. I need some levity.
That's the thing. There's really really funny just the absolute juxtaposition of, you can tell what's a Geoff pick and you can tell what's a Ron what is a Ron pick usually, because like Ron, Drive Angry. It's got Nick Cage shooting people while he's having sex with a girl.
He killed him while we was fucking.
My movie has an elder god who is death, who is going after a widow.
Oh my god.
So yep, that's me. I guess I have a fucking type of movie that I seek out, and they're usually fucked up horror movies, because that is my life.
I just realized some of the shadow work they do with nothing is very similar to the villain of Super Smash Bros. Brawl on the Wii.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's like, imagine that outline of nothing like standing in the room, but like cosmic, like nebulas and fucking stars and like black holes and supernovas. Just his body is just made up of that. He's
Nice.
the Subspace Emissary, I think is his name, which is a fucking cool name.
That's pretty dope.
That sounds like a fucking death metal band.
Before we forget, Airplane available for streaming on Max.
Yes, I want to say 2 might even be there.
Possibly.
Which 2 has one of the best jokes I've ever seen in a movie, I think, ever. It's not the best joke ever written. That one still belongs to Lethal Weapon. But it's on the moon. It's a flight to the moon. And the way you open and close the doors on the station on the moon is you go, shh, and the door goes, shh, as it opens.
I love that.
And then they walk through and they go, shh, and the door goes, shh, as it closes. And there is a scene very much like the intro to Get Smart, where they're just just going through all these doors, door after door after door.
Genius.
Oh, God. I laugh so hard every single time they do it, because what do you think of when you think of science fiction, right? Like the Enterprise doors and like everything. Get Smart riffed on that. Like, oh, it's genius. You make the sound and it makes the exact same sound. It's so
That's
good.
incredible. All right, I gotta get us out of here before we hit 2 hours.
We gotta make and do it, Jeff. We can do it.
We gotta get the fuck out of here. If you would like to follow the show more, you can follow us on Twitter.
Push,
X.
Jeff, push.
I don't know what the fuck it's called anymore. It'll
On
probably have a
X
different
Twitter.
name. It'll probably have a different name that fuckboy Elon comes up with by the time this episode drops. So I don't fucking know.
I just call it X Twitter.
Yeah. Is the URL still Twitter, by the way?
You know, I'm gonna do it right now.
I think it is.
Let me see. Oh, God damn it. Firefox is updating.
I always just pull it up on my... Yeah, so the fucking URL for X is still twitter.com, so that's intelligent. Twitter.com/SBR Filmcast for our channel updates on there. Any ratings or reviews on whichever platform.
X.com redirects to Twitter.com.
You don't want to play around with X.com. Because you're playing some dangerous odds.
There is a porn site that somehow involves just like X. And I heard a podcaster tell me that like he woke up, opened his phone, saw Twitter had changed, and his first thought was, why do I have a porn app on my phone?
I feel like everyone thought that, because it's like, Jesus Christ, such a stupid fucking name. Yeah, any ratings or reviews on whichever platform you found us on are always appreciated and helpful. If you are watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe to get future uploads. Share us out to your friends. Would you like to share out to your friends a 2-hour-long podcast about grief and Germans eating barbecue? Do we have the show for you? Yeah.
And griefing Germans trying to eat barbecue.
Yeah. I hope you choke, man. Come on now.
I hope you puke. Oh, it was so good.
That's so good.
It was the best. I feel like that first 30 minutes of the show was worth it for that.
Oh yeah,
it's
absolutely.
so good.
Yeah. This has been the Night House. I'm glad we watched it. I feel like
this has been the Nope House.
I feel like I need like a nap, because it's just like the movie just like weighs in your fucking soul. But
I need a blanket and a warm hug.
Yeah, I need a blankie. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good night.
Almost made it. Minute and a half. You couldn't have stalled for another minute and a half.
Oh, I could have stalled, but I have to fucking pee.
You know how many outros we have after our theme song of you just going, I gotta pee?